muted.
The NOI
It's on
number
now.
is revenue minus expenses and payroll.
Let's see if I can
The
hear it.
POA and amenities and
Mine's
improvements
Patrick.
has a deficit of $720,000 against the year-to-date budget, which is a $50,000 improvement over October, which had a deficit of $770,000. In wastewater treatment and sewer, overall revenue in October, tap fees exceeded budget by 38% and are ahead of revenue targets by 6%, or $174,000. In November, tap fees exceeded budget by 30% and overall revenue targets by 5%, or $133,000. Commercial sewer fees are off by 12% and residential sewer fees are below by 2% year to date. Operating expenses, including payroll, there was a decline in payroll October and November of 14%, that equates to $160,000. November also saw a saving in permits of 34% and an increase of 35% in insurance costs. Net income for sewer operations continues to be better for budget. October NOI was $628,000 and November NOI was $705,000. And if you look on the last two pages of the package that you received, the 2026 amended fee schedule is included there.
Thank you. I was going to ask you a question. We're not going to the Tom is asking about
We'll go.
We'll get to it before we get the members to ask any questions. We will have to answer.
Finally, I'll go ahead and get the questions you asked me. First of all, I think just one of them was about the website. No? What the member section of the website was? Obviously, our website is our information source. It's operated provided through Northstar. Northstar is one of the top two total operating software companies in the country. Thousands of clients. But they provide all of our operating software for all of our accounting, billing, member records, paying online through statements, information on all events and so forth. This is the member site. You can see we have the bar across the top, which allows you, there is, you go to say the member section, please. You see drop downs, just stay on that. We have carryover, so like you can get governing documents readily in your member section. You can also go to the administration section under the governing documents there as well. So a lot of it is crossover, so that you have my property, gives you, for instance, information about ACC and the like, and things relative to your property and boxes and so forth. The amenities section covers all our amenities. Try to make it as user-friendly as possible. We also, if you go back to the homepage, please, that is where we offer, scroll down, what's currently happening. I know there was a frustration experience with the budget presentation. That link, that was a good learning opportunity. As you can see, Shannon, by the way, Shannon Turner is our gatekeeper, if you will, for the website. All S&Ps have input to the website and updates, as well as our IT team. Shannon works closely with the IT team on overseeing, updating, and managing the website. we've already addressed, you'll see a link on there this morning, you scroll back up to today's meeting. And you can click on the live stream, as long as it's working. And I also want to say, if there's ever any drop the ball, or there's any problem with the website, just go to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. All of this is on our YouTube channel. I think all of you certainly by now figure from there, YouTube, go on there, go to the search button, you get Fairfield Glade, community button. And you'll see our channel. You can subscribe to it. So it'll be quicker, that way it helps. All of our live streaming, all of our recorded meetings are located there. In fact, that's where our website is connected to. So that's another access point that's very user friendly. But you can, conduct transactions, you can see the current statement in real time. We also provided when this was initially launched, and like all websites, these are constantly evolving. So we welcome input. We want it to be your website. We want it to be as friendly as possible. It's a lot of information. It's a big company, it's property. So it does have a lot of drop downs, and you do have to go along. We try and make it as easy as possible. We are always available. We are more than happy to meet with anyone at any time to help you learn and navigate and share feedback. I mean, it's a class setting. We offered that when we first launched the website. We got good response to it from some members. And there's also the section on Newcomers 101, which is sort of mirrors the classes that were done in the past by the board, that you could go to and attend. It has basically everything that was what the member central, if you will. It is on the top bar there. Down here, yeah. So that's a good information source. All of us aren't necessarily newcomers, but we need refreshers, and it's good to know. So, I encourage you just to really, and I'm sure you have, but if you are finding areas that are wonky and frustrating, let us know, and we can adjust it. Because the cost is all inclusive in our fees with North Star. I don't have those well down with those, but we have to sort of mind the actual cost of the website. But is that is that what was another question about yeah, those will be short, very short. Something for the board and more now, the other thing I wanted to share is a quick update on Druid. John, if you can pull that schedule up for us, please. We are basically, the floors have been poured, the main floor has been put in. It looks great. We are currently, we're starting to see some framing going in this week. The framing will arrive. We did have some delay with the steel correction. The crews were late arriving. It's not the only sub that has been a bit of, put us in a little bit of that when the general contractor is moving around as we're talking about the project. But this is a construction schedule. I know it's hard to see. Please don't worry about it. This will be on the website. You can go and see, and it gets updated on a monthly basis by our general contractor. And it just shows you the path of the schedule. This line right here is where we are currently. And this is where we started. And it goes through every single division and as we go forward with the construction project. It's a big job, a big project, but I know it's hard to read with this particular slide and presentation, but it will be available for you as an information source for those of you who are interested in enjoy that type of thing. The good news is that we're not currently experiencing any significant delays other than the other end we can talk for the time. fire station work in this. We had a groundbreaking, as you know, and, it's really, great to, have that day come and celebrate. And, the pad has been prepared, the site, we will be putting in the foundation, in short order. Yeah, we are currently getting electric for the construction trail, and we're still, getting everything really prepped. But you're gonna see about 2 weeks, a lot of really significant, progress that can go on. That's something on Friday, so, we're really excited to do that. So, any questions on either of those?
Not, ready to come up here. People won't hear you.
So I apologize if I missed it. Have we seen the final budget for this? And how are the funds? If I missed it previously.
Tom, are you asking for real?
I'm sorry. The EMS station.
Oh.
That was, presented 2 board meetings ago. But we can, again, we've got, put that information, that's, board as yeah, the final, DC cost is right at 2.9. Yeah.
What was the question?
Is that on the
Is that
website?
also on the website?
Is that on the website was the question? We gotta remember, people can't hear you when you're sitting out there.
Yeah, the votes are last year. But, yeah, we did get the final, cost of the GC, was right at 2.9. The total budget is 2.
So Tom, the financing for EMS building, the budget called for the cash. We've secured an equity line of credit with, one of our current lenders that we will use for the construction costs. And then we will reevaluate once it's complete to see if, we can take out a long-term lending solution or make cash use, depends, I have a lease and we can say, from a cash use standpoint.
That was all I had for my report. Anyone have any questions? Thank you.
We'll get back to the treasurer's question, but after we finish these reports, okay? So, resource report, Mark.
Good, Greg pretty much will touch upon anything that I know, immediately, anything that comes about, I can talk right immediately. That's the day that I found out that we were closing, Greg was one of the first persons I contacted, out of respect, for the club. They're looking at a proposed filing date for chapter 11, end of December, beginning of January. I caution on the end of December, I'm not familiar with what systems like you are, but I'd say a lot of people go on vacation, a lot of people take time off, so you might get bogged down, some of them all close the first week. As far as occupancy, we had a great, November, which was nice to see. I feel like a lot of people coming back just for that last visit, because of visiting the ancient ski 80s and 90s. And look at December right now, we're slow, looking at 35, 45%, running the midweeks, weekends, a little busier. Christmas will have a little bit of spike, when it's like the 4th of January, we'll be closing the doors. There might be some holdovers that people may get notified, and if it's staying on the day or so, we'll work with them, not gonna get them off property. This is up plan. So, get out. I have another word I can throw in. But the team's doing really well. We're very surprised. I'm not surprised.
we get into, old business, I'll take a cue from you, Tom. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the budget, meeting of December first.
I make the motion that we approve the budget meeting minutes from December first.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, so before we get into the rest of the old business, I'm going to backtrack to the treasurer and the CFO to answer the questions that were posed.
As far as moving the budget meeting to November 20th, part of the reason was that you faced a lot of challenges in building this budget, especially those that occurred following the Wyndham announcement that they were closing. That required us to relocate in every aspect of the budget. And as of the 13th, we did not have the confidence in going forward in the presentation, which is why it was delayed. What you had presented to you was a consensus budget between the FAC, the SMTs, operations staff, and the board as far as the budget for 2026. And as far as Q&A, Brad, I'll refer to you since I didn't do the presentation.
Okay. We answered many questions there. I believe we're also still on the website. Does anybody know that? They should be. Those questions should have been posted. So if they're not posted, let's get them posted. All right. Those should have been done. That should have been done right after the meeting. So let's get that taken. And in terms of why we didn't send out the budget early this year, those of you that attended the budget presentation, there was a little education piece that was the first part of that presentation. Without the context, you only got the presentation. You needed to hear the context of how that presentation got to be where it is. So it was a choice that we made not to send it out early this year because the context wouldn't have gone out with the paper. All right, so that's the reason why we did it, and that's the reason why at that meeting, the whole first part of that, before we even got into the numbers, was a lot of how Fairfield Glade works, what's our relationship with the timeshares, what are some of the big challenges that we're dealing with next year, we reiterated a number of those across the board. So that's really why we came out of it. We hope we can get back to that, but I'm going to be honest with you, Tom, and I'll point you since you asked the question about saying we're going to have some more challenges this year. I mean, just the timeshare filings alone have been not on schedule, all right? And when they get off their schedule, it impacts us. So we're going to have to work through a number of these things as we get information to you. We promise to share it, and we will, but we can't do things without having information. So it's just going to be one of those years again, I'm afraid. Come up here. I'm going to make you get exercise for that.
The part about the Q&A, so again, you have the opportunity to ask questions before the budget is approved. Again, I didn't see anything in there. There was no place to put those questions, there was no posting in the way that we would ask questions somehow. Yeah, look at that box. And this is not slow news. We do this. And we understand, is it that we don't have somebody accountable for making sure this works, so that
It's not a matter of making it work. It's really more of a question of the magnitude of the changes we were dealing with and the timing of those. You know, I'm not trying to make excuses, but the reality is that we didn't hear about Wyndham until March called and made me on July 27th, about 9 o'clock in the morning, when we were already in the appeals meeting, to find out that they're closing. I know that doesn't sound well. You say, well, Jay, that was July 27th, and now you had till November to look at all this stuff. That's not much time when you're taking a look at having to go back and look at every piece of your budget to make sure that it lines up with what your plan is gonna be. So, a lot of that discussion, and to be quite frank with you, the reason why we delayed that a week is because we weren't aligned between the SATs, the FAC, and the board. And we needed to have that conversation. So, if the board would have said something out, you would have gotten our opinion. But that may or may not have lined up with operations in the FAC. We didn't think that was a good idea. So we took the time to make sure those people that were most involved with the details of that budget all had an opportunity to say their piece and make sure that we understood exactly where they were. And we're not gonna get into it today, but I know in the near future, Jason and MK are working on a more detailed schedule for next year's plan, or next year's budget. And you're gonna see that some of those things that we learned from this process, we're gonna get in earlier. In fact, the budget process is going to start almost in January this year, or for next year. And we're working through those details right now, so we're trying to get better, Tom. We stub our toes sometimes, but sometimes the stubs are impossible to calculate because you're not in control of all the information. And that really was the truth of the issue.
Greg, I think he's also, if I'm correct, asking why in the answers to the questions we put in budget instead of that. So, yeah, and I looked through the questions that were asked and answered at the budget presentation. Nearly all of them were answered at that point in time. But anytime you have a question, you can send it to, it's from probably by heart. So you can talk to Jason and ask those questions about the budget. But I did look through, there are a couple that are really more long-term things that weren't answered, but the specific ones were answered.
Tom, the cash flow is posted on the website, I re-uploaded, October financials.
Okay.
Dean Guy, I'm just wondering, did you receive additional questions or comments after the budget meeting?
We received very few, to be honest, questions, and I think, the last round I answered yesterday with Tom, and, the feedback, was mostly handled in the meeting, and there were very few follow-up questions afterwards.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, now we're into old business. You want to give them the update on the policies posted in the October board meeting.
For the inventory, property sales policy, and revising the reserve fee policy, I'm pulling those policies because I have received a plethora of comments, and I want to go back and review the language in the policies so that we can clarify the intent, and they'll be represented in January and reposted. And I want to thank everyone for their comments. I tried to answer all of them. I apologize to people that didn't get a response from me, but my email inbox was overflowing. Thank you.
Okay. You want to do the updates on Isaac, actually, the updates on the two policies being reviewed by the ACC.
So the, update on the two policies, the fence policy and the parking policy, the board is sending the fence policy back to the ACC for a few more adjustments before we post that. And, we are, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the parking policy as a result.
I second that.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that was taken care of, the parking policy. New business, we have a number of committee members that get seated this time. We had actually seated some members at the appeals meeting, and that's where the ACC, Jacqueline Roberts, who I think is here. You are here, all right. There's a three-term person, David Spina, who also has a three-term, I don't know the details today. Those were approved. Fall committee, William Howard was approved for a 3-year term. And those were the ones that were approved at the appeals meeting. We try to get these appeals, we try to get these people seated so that they're really ready to take over the seats in January, but we encourage them from really about any committee meeting that's available, that they know if they're gonna be on it, then from really about October on to the end of the year to attend. So we try to get these people seated as quickly as we can. That's one of the reasons why we did that appeals meeting. And, but these are board meetings or board appointments, so, they're not usually with discussion items, in the overall meeting. So we went and did those. Now, having said that, we have other committees that we are approving today. So the first one is the strategic planning committee. So Monica?
Yes, I am asking that David Urban, Jessica Speaker, be granted a 1-year term, extension through December of 2026. We've got a lot of new people on that committee, and it's beneficial to have some continuity. And then, the strategic planning committee is recommending John Alders, Mark Carlock, and Ryan Houston for 3-year terms through December.
So is there a motion?
There's a motion to accept those 5 people with the first 2 for extension and the last 3 for 3-year terms.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The Lights Committee, Isaac.
Yes, so the race committee has 4 candidates, and I am making a motion that we call all those candidates.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The Environmental Committee. Now, I'm going to lead us on it, we have a noted member here who's trying to get on the committee again, and that's Mr. Warren. So, is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve Bruce Warren for the environmental committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the final committee today is the newly formed policy review committee. Scott?
So Isaac and I spent, all the time last Thursday. We had 16 people, apply for the new policy review committee. We conducted all 16 of those interviews last Thursday. And we get to know each session. We had a lot of great candidates and a lot of interest in this new committee, and very thankful for all those that, put in their applications. So we are recommending 7 new members of this newly formed policy review committee. Robin Duffy Bowles, Tony Moore, Steve Locker, Ryan Knudsen, Ben Paulson, Jim Ogden, and Lisa Shelton. And I will say that many of these folks have a lot of experience with contracts. Several of them have experience with prior HOAs, a lot of writing skills. And if you've seen our writing, we need that help. So being able to get that expertise and prior background with contracts and other policies, good mix of folks that have been here for a while, a couple that are relatively new to the community. We think we've got a good mix of experience and skill sets that are really gonna get this community off and running. We get the committee formed, we'll have a kickoff meeting in January, and we'll get them off and running. So with that, I motion that we approve all 7 of these folks as the new members of the policy review.
I second.
Any other discussion? Glenn, I know you're here. Are there any other people that were on this list that are here? Can you stand up just so they see you? Glenn, why don't you just say who you are?
Glenn Olson, video entertainment.
Hearing no no further conversation, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
All of the three returns of.
Yeah, they'll all be 3-year terms. As we get into it, we need to, do some staggering, we'll adjust that.
That was second part of my life.
Yes.
Okay. ACC new home requirements.
So the update on the home requirement revisions are, there's a lot of revisions that we're looking at doing to the home requirements, and we are not going through those yet. There's some things we need to work through with the ACC before we, put those out to them.
We told you that the end of the year was included in across the board, so we'll do that again. Are there any, well, I've got one remark from the board members. We didn't do this in September because we didn't know what the results of the election were going to be. We now obviously know what those are. And Bruce Warren, I'd like you to come up because we'd like to recognize your service on the board for the last 3 years and how much we appreciate what you've done. We got 2 things for you. We have the Druid Place. Now, if you get a set of 4 of these. Enough for the family. And they will be collector's items. They will. And
When you're out doing your environmental review, you can take this path along, make sure you stay well hydrated.
we purposely did not give you this before.
It's a his and hers set, okay?
And at this point, Bruce, if there's some things you'd like to say, I'll give you the microphone and it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I will tell you, it has been an honor and privilege to have worked for the community as a board member. One of the things I think that in the discussion today, there's some short-term memory loss, I believe. Because if you recall the tumultuous times that we had 4 years ago, we had a series of interim directors of finance and general managers. So those were troubling times, but we came through it well. We accomplished things that have never been done. It's the basis for where we are now. And now we're going through another period of challenges. This board and the people, our neighbors, our friends who volunteer to do this work, do it with utmost belief in the future and the quality of this place that we live in. We'll all do it again. We have volunteers that are on every committee and every standing committee that volunteer incredible amounts of time, talent, and effort to make this place the place that we love. It's the best thing that ever happened to many of us. And we want to continue with that. The integrity and the quality of the staff and the senior management team that have been here. These people are not doing it for just a paycheck. These people believe in what it is they're doing. And these people and the volunteers are the heart and soul of this community. And this is the place we want to continue to live in and to be the best that we can. And I absolutely can't say enough about the people that I have learned from and worked with, from the staff and senior management team and all the people on this board that I've worked with. I can't tell you how honored I am to be part of this community and work with these people. Thank you.
Okay. And Bruce, it's back at you. I mean, we really do appreciate all the time you put in. You had a steep learning curve with the treasurer's, job, when we didn't even have a finance director at that point. So, really, thank you for all you did. Okay? All right, any other comments by board members on anything? All right, are there any comments from the floor?
I'm here because I received the email about, the center accepting contracts for the library use space. I attend a class in the library use space every Monday, Tuesday, Friday morning, and third. This class has been going on for over 20 years, although I have not been going. For some reason, the class is canceled, moved, bumped, continued. Now, this year, before I put in 18 done, totally acceptable. Friday after Thanksgiving, we showed up and there was an entire room stuff with people that someone had registered for. Our class was supposed to be 9:30, many of us were there and couldn't in because somebody said it was on time. It happened for, like my street, they come in, I think twice a year, they make it 2 days a week. Those, I told you about that. The Lakes Committee, having the first Friday of the month, Lakes Committee meets in that room at 10 a.m. Our class is no there till 10 a.m., so we get moved out tonight. It's just unacceptable. The people who are teaching it are residents, members, people who are attending, who are anywhere from 28 to 34 people each day. Are all members. A few times, but for the most part, they're all members. And I called here to talk to someone about this, and they told me the decision was being made. So, they're in. So I'm just saying that when these contracts are due, I would like somebody to put some other priority on continuous classes in the one o'clock, and this heavily in these one. Thank you.
We'll see if we've got
Yeah,
responses to this.
Mary Jo's not in today.
No, there we go. Hello. Mary Jo's not here today, she's out, but I'll follow up with her and get some information. What's the name of the group again?
It's called a stretch class.
Stretch Class. Okay.
Clarify what's not.
No, that was, I don't know, why you were giving that information, and I'll look into that too, because, that was not accurate information, I apologize for that, so, but I'll check with Mary Jo and get some information on that, get back to you. Okay? All right.
About 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I came before the board and expressed my concerns about the maintenance and the control of the roads in Fairfield Glade. This process I started probably 2 years ago with Bob Weber and that. I was told, and I appreciate that, it's a long process, takes time, I'm willing to do all that, except for the fact that the the chipping and sealing process done this year, the road was brought to my attention that it needs to be addressed. I sent an email to Mr. Jones and his staff, on November 23rd, expressing my concerns about Trentwood Drive being chip and seal. Never heard back from anybody, staff, county, nobody got back to me regarding that. We did have a sweeper truck come down and sweep some of the dust off the road against it. Would anybody want to venture a guess what they're looking at here? That's Trentwood Road after the chip and sealing process being done. If this is the way that we're paying our HOA fees and our tax money, somebody better take a really good look at it. Okay? That road is in worse condition now than it was before the chip and seal was done. Now it's gonna take every year, obviously, we're on a 10-year cycle to do it, okay, so what's gonna happen? Okay, every year it's gonna be, the potholes are gonna be done, it's gonna be redressed and all that. And I'm saying this because this is just the tip of the iceberg. If Trentwood Road is this way, there are other roads this way. We have two people on the board who are very interested in real estate and all that. I would venture a question to them is, do you want to sell property on a road that looks like that? Can you sell property on a road that looks like that? Okay? I told Mr. Jones earlier, and I'm more than willing to work. This needs to be addressed, okay? If we pay all our good money to the county to have that road done, and that's the condition it is, a month after the chip and seal process is done, we're taking it being taken. And I, for one, am not happy. Thank you very much.
I'll respond to part of that, okay? Because I know this has come up and you've been vocal about it before.
And more than patient,
Well,
I understand the process, the administration process, the policies that have to be put in place between not replacing one entity. This here is a prime example of why I'm saying.
and what we've done, we've had, I think, 4, if not 5 meetings with the county. We've had our commissioners there, we've had Stanley Hall, who's the superintendent of roads there, and we've been talking about what the maintenance of roads really looks like for, not just here, but Cumberland County. Because, as I want to be real clear about this, if the roads were accepted by the county, and this was an accepted road, it is the county's responsibility to do the maintenance, okay? Now, we're allowed to do some pothole fixing and things like that, but the actual maintenance of the road is a county responsibility.
Are you comfortable with that result?
Hold on. I'm not saying that this road is right. I'm really not. But the county, and we're finding out a lot of things about how county roads are being maintained, and we're also looking at the process of how we get county roads accepted by the county. And we will have a report out to the membership. It's taken a lot longer than what I hoped, but the fact of the matter is we need the details from the county about how we're going to work with them on this kind of stuff. Now, part of it is, you know, what they told us, and Bill, you probably are better to speak to this about the dust and all of that, but we've got some information about why. Okay? That doesn't make it fixed, okay, I understand that. But I can probably tell you right now that this time of year, with the temperatures that we have, there's no one going to be doing much chip and seal or asphalt or anything right now, because they're all closed.
Then why did we do it 2 months ago when the process was supposed to be done? My question is the quality of the work that's done.
And that's
That road was not tread properly, that road was not covered properly, and this is the results that the residents of Ridgewood have to live with. Okay, because now you're saying because of the county, okay?
It always has been the county.
It's always been the county.
So we are working with them, and we understand what you're talking about, okay? This will help us, we got some pictures. We've actually taken and gone with, in some cases, the county superintendent and at least one of the commissioners to some of these roads to look at them, okay, with them, okay? And we've had discussions with them about what they look like and what can be done. But this truly is a county responsibility for those roads that are accepted. This is an accepted road.
Well, I think as a community, we can put a hell of a lot of pressure on the county to do it right. I have a personal, this is my own personal feeling, is you can talk about golf courses, pickleball courses and all. If the infrastructure of this community is not maintained, then we'll look like a backwoods country.
We do that, but the main thing I want to make sure that you really understand, everyone in this room needs to understand. We don't do that maintenance for the county. The county does that. So we have to work with the groups that we have with them. Now,
That's
things like-
the
things like-
result of what we get for our tax dollars. That there. That's not acceptable.
all I can tell you is, and it's pretty widely known throughout the county, even the commissioners will say, speak to it, even the county mayor will speak to it, and certainly the superintendent of roads. They're underfunded
They have the mineral tax repeated twice.
twice.
They've done, this is a county problem, and I mean, I'm just,
No.
yes, I'm just trying, I want to give you some answers.
No.
Okay,
It wasn't done right.
that's what I was going to speak to, sir, if I may. When we met with Stanley, one of the updates that he gave us, and there's all kinds of statistics about how underfunded Cumberland County is with their roads. And, you know, we will share that and get into that at a later time. But we have met with Stanley, the commissioners met with him, the mayor, we've had meetings. One thing Stanley shares as the superintendent of roads, the state of Tennessee used to require that the gravel coming from the quarries had to be washed twice before it was sent out for use. That is no longer mandated. The gravel they're receiving is covered in dust. And it takes a longer time, this is not the award speaking, this is the superintendent of the roads, for that tar to adhere because of the amount of dust that is on that rock. And that rock and that dust is what you're seeing as a byproduct because the state of Tennessee, for cost measures and whatever, no longer requires that gravel be washed. And so that's what we're seeing this year. But again, the budget that we have, you referenced the previous emails that we shared, we talked about with the community. If the club chooses to subsidize, it's strictly, I mean, this past year alone, almost $400,000 of the budget, out of the $700,000 budget, 400 went just on the main artery of Stonehenge Drive. We get so much traffic on our main artery, Stonehenge, Catoosa, and Westchester. We have to, and Rogers is the only contractor in this county that is certified and capable of doing that work. So we're at their mercy and their schedule to when they come out. We don't even get more than a day or two notice that they're coming. And they took care of Stonehenge. Then the repairs we did with potholes and the like after the winter with that budget, we were left with enough to do a 1 mile of new asphalt with that $700,000. So that's, yeah, your dollars addressing a larger problem, or subsidizing a larger problem that exists in this county. So you're right, as residents, as citizens, which I am one, we need to let the county know and work with the county to find solutions to this problem.
The other thing I'd like to add is that your property tax doesn't go to the village.
Right, that's true.
It comes from the gas tax
I
that goes
pay
to.
the gas tax, I pay the electric vehicle tax, okay, so my tax dollars go to.
Yeah, but I'm just clarifying if it's not property.
If I misspoke, okay, I wasn't referring to my property tax. I was referring to my gasoline tax and my EV tax.
And that gets distributed by national.
Right, okay. But I think you're missing my point is that it wasn't done right. I'm not so concerned about how many miles get done right now and how many, it's the quality of the work that was done. How, did that road now, okay, with the winter coming and the ice and that, those potholes, holes, are gonna be dangerous. No question about it. They're gonna get bigger because of the heating and all of that, all right? And the county walks away saying, you know, there we are, and they sign off on the job as a.
Well, the problem is, and I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that the pictures you showed us, that's the way a road should be done. But the facts are, is we're not in that business, and we don't oversee the county when they do their work. That work is done by the county on their nickel, and they do it in our community.
But we will take that picture and any others that we have to the meeting when we meet with the commissioners and the mayor and Stanley Hall. But you can also do that too, because all of us, and they say, you know, the best thing to do is show up at one of the county commissioners' meetings. And all of us as residents owe that to them to let them know what it looks like. It's not
I started here because I realized that there were no policies in place and no coordination between the county and the Glade. And every time I asked a question from the McAdoo or something like that, it never came out as an answer, okay? So I figured, okay, I'll start at the source, thinking that this was the source, okay, of the problem. And it's an actual combined source between the county and us.
Well, no, I'm gonna challenge on that. It's not a combined source. Maintenance of roads accepted by the county is solely the jurisdiction of the county and it rests with the superintendent of roads. That's it.
I appreciate that comment, but I also appreciate the fact that the Glade is here, the Glade is a big input of revenue for the county. I mean, we have to have some input to what the county decides to do and how they decide to do it.
We have as much input as any other group within Cumberland County. These are county issues.
Bring those pictures to Stanley Hall and ask them if that's acceptable.
I can tell you, Stanley Hall, with Colleen Mall called a meeting with residents in Stanley Hall, and they walked this road. As well as two other roads that I arranged for Stanley to go and meet with residents in the first. His comment is, it was done to county specifications. So that's the issue. The county is saying this was done to county specifications. And that's where we are.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
But we are trying to work with the county to understand, and we're getting a better understanding of what their limitations are.
And to support those, because we've got
Yeah.
to make people aware of things like the mineral tax. And then in the past, we would have had more money and developers support that.
And we actually sent a letter from the board on behalf of the community supporting that tax.
And I can tell you that the comments on the scale of the county and the investigation that's been done by commissioners, as well as the regional planning, have said that on a scale of the scope of Cumberland County, the roads in Fairfield Glade are an A. Relative to other areas. There are areas.
I want to attend
Relatively speaking.
I want to attend that class.
Yeah, there are, yeah, and I'm serious, there are areas where school buses cannot get to homes, ambulances cannot get to homes because roads are washed out. There's over 1,100 miles of roads in Cumberland County, and they have an annual budget to address about less than 100 miles a year.
No, I never realized how bad the roads were until I got into this little project here. But I'm moving on to the county.
Yeah.
lead the county.
We'll be doing it with our committee too.
Yeah, we'll-
I agree with you.
Yeah, but one of the things that we need to do when we get it all settled out is we need to present at a forum like this or a special meeting or however we're gonna do it, of exactly what the situation, what the facts are behind it. You know, it was shocking to me how many roads there are and what the budget is for the maintenance of those roads in the county. You know, as Bill said, I mean, there's places they won't even deliver mail to because they can't get to the mailboxes. I mean, this is a situation, and I'm not trying to justify the county at all, okay? Don't take it that way. But unfortunately, I think the big thing that's gonna take to fix this is money. And not just ours. Not just ours.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Merry Christmas, happy New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you.
While we're on that subject, that mineral tax, I contacted all of the county commissioners that voted against it. And I politely asked them, would they please let me know why they voted against it? I got 2 responses. One was such a garbled mess, I couldn't even make out what the person was trying to say. The second one told me to call him and he would explain why he voted against it. So I did, I called him, and he said he voted against it the second time because that's the way the tent city legislature should work. It should take another whole year before this comes up. That was his main reason for voting against it. Brilliant guy, I think. And as far as talking to county commissioners, when you go to those county commission meetings, which I did for years, along with this one, I come to all the time, we are not looked upon in a real favorable way. And that's been since the beginning of Fairfield Glade. I don't know what the solution to that is, because honestly, the minute that your voice is heard, and it's not a local voice, a local accent, you're immediately pushed into that Northern California, New York position. And it's almost like a wall goes up. And it's like you don't really know anything about this area. And that's sad because I work in town, I work from home, but I work with townspeople, and I love the townspeople. I really do. I think they're wonderful people, and I hate this barrier that's between them and us. And I think that is part of the problem with the roads too. And has anyone contacted Bailey or Sexton to get involved in this?
Yeah, we actually had a conversation with them.
Okay,
And we talked specifically around the wheel tax. And basically what we were told was that it died before it even got to the floor of either the Senate or the House for no interest.
okay, but are they trying to do anything about increasing the budget for county?
Well, there's a formula, and you'll see that, that's one of the facts things that we're getting, and they're actually doing a video at the state level to show how funds trickle down to the counties. And then we're gonna take it from the county with the information we're getting and how they get down to us.
And is it pretty much based on population, or how many miles of roads? What do they base their formula on?
I can't remember the formula is. I think it's based on the number of roads. But, yeah, we're working on that education package to get all that out to you.
Well, I know, but I've been asking about this for months and months and months, so
Well-
I don't forget about it.
No, and
My
we don't
brain
like
keeps
it.
going back.
We don't like it. Now, again, this time of year, trying to get, trying to get everybody together this time of year is a recipe for a disaster because everybody's out and about. So we'll get back into this right after the first of the year, but that's one of the largest things, and Joe, you're a good example of it. Still here? You leave? Oh, there he is, back there, okay. You're a good example of it. Most of us And I'll say for myself, I did not really realize the magnitude of this problem until we actually sat down with people who live with it and find out what they have to do.
Jim just shut the
And
sound
it
off
is
on the
a
camera.
big problem. And they
Down there
know
just
it.
now. They
It's not
called
like they're
her,
trying to say, well, gee,
or did you
so
call
it
Tim?
didn't work. They don't have
They
money.
just called her and said,
And
yes.
that causes the problem for all
So
of us.
she went in and turned
And it's
the
the
sound
whole
off
county, I
the
agree.
camera.
But I think that
You turn
Billy
the sound off on
Sexton
the
needs to
camera
be
now.
constantly
With
talking
that
about these
computer
things and
down
make
there.
it more of a priority.
You
And
can't do
Monica,
that
you
with
said
the
you had 4 meetings recently. What did you think was accomplished in those meetings?
I don't know, as far as I know, everything should be working.
That's the main thing we're looking for.
I didn't understand, I thought maybe they were making a decision to sort of discriminate against us, just based on what I'd heard. And it's not, it is formula, like I said, I'll flip through our notes and try to get that. But we learned how many miles of roads there are, 1,019, we're a small percentage of that number of roads. How they allocate the process among the different jurisdictions in the county and actually from the state also. And then we looked at a couple things that were kind of gray that we had to have follow-up meetings on, and we still have a couple of those that are supposed to come. So I think some of it was an understanding, knowing what it costs per mile of road, $160,000 per mile. They only have a $6 million budget. They have $7.5 million of documented expenses that they need to do just to stay on their schedule. Every 10 years for chip and seal, and every 20 for asphalt.
And
So it's kind of documenting some of those so that we don't keep getting answers that send us in a circle. So,
Again, I think it's budget too.
And I think the other thing I would point out about this is, there's actually 2 issues at macro level, okay, with this. There's maintenance of roads, and there's new roads. And the process we've got to go through to accept it. Now, we've got some internal processes we've got to take a look at about how we go about doing that. And we've got the declarant involved. The declarant actually has attended at least 1, if not 2 of those meetings. And working with the community club so that we can, for instance, I'll just give you one example. This got passed by the planning commission and came out of our discussions, a month ago. The way the planning commission was looking at new roads,
Got an email from
or
the
maintenance
president.
roads even,
Says
is
that
they were expecting each
they weren't able to get
resident
any
to come in and say, this
Yeah, I don't
is
know.
my
We don't know
problem.
what the problem is. Everything should be working.
What we want to do is get it to a
So
point where
on
we,
what he
as a
said,
club,
it may be my
especially
computer,
new roads,
but
come to the planning commission for
the
acceptance.
recorded version is getting volume.
And say, on behalf of all of these residents, we will represent.
I have to check it after.
To do this.
Okay.
That was
I mean,
not
we
gonna
can
be
do
the way it was
live
gonna be
streaming right
done.
now, but yeah.
And we got that changed.
I just don't.
So now we don't have to have 30 residents pay $100 each to go get this stuff done. We pay
Like I
a
said,
plus
it's normally John
$100
does this. I've never messed with it
and we
before,
get-
so I'm not
We
sure.
get at least every year.
To my knowledge, everything should be working.
So some things are starting to pull out of this.
Good to know. We don't know those things.
Well,
so-
that's why we're trying to put all this together.
I know.
It's a very complex problem. It looks on the surface that it should be easy, and Joe, I don't disagree with your statement about the pictures, okay? I get that. But when you get down to working with the county, and especially when you've got situations like where the superintendent of roads does not report to the mayor,
Yeah.
and yet the planning commission does report to the mayor. You've got all kinds of governmental agencies that are not necessarily aligned.
Right.
And that just makes it tougher on people like us trying to work through all the issues. And I'm not trying to make excuses here, but the fact is that we still have a lot of work to get done in terms of how we need to work with the county to take on these issues.
And Joe, I agree with
There
everything
was
that
somebody
Joe
called
said.
in that was
And
watching it on
the
live stream,
explanation
complained
that Bill
about
Ward
something.
gave about the gravel,
We've gotten
that
several.
explains the dust, but it doesn't explain the poor quality of it. That really is a mess on that. So I agree with everything you said.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Catherine Henderson. I live in Druid Hills. I was here last year in December pleading with you to come to the Rapid Center and sit for 2 hours while 4 or 6 courts of pickleball played simultaneously. To my knowledge, none of you have done that. And don't see the agony that we're exposed to every single day. I also asked that you revisit the unnecessary decision to line court 3 with pickleball lines, which you also did not do. The rules that were put in place for the use of that court have not been followed in any way. The exposure to noise is absolutely unbearable and unsafe. There are numerous studies about the impact of pickleball noise. There are more than 1,000 active lawsuits across the country taking communities, HOAs, neighborhoods, and parks to task because they failed to take noise into consideration when converting courts from one sport to another and ignored the consequences of noise exposure to physical health. Using an amenity for something other than what it was designed for goes against generally accepted practices for HOAs and POAs. The racket center was designed for tennis, not pickleball. The facility is not structurally built to protect people that play inside against the noise. At the 2025 meeting of the American Acoustical Society, Dr. Kathleen Romito presented research about pickleball and the noise that's generated during play. That first pop of the plastic ball on the paddle is the loudest part of the noise and has a frequency that causes the body to respond in a fight or flight mode. This causes the autonomous nervous system to flood the body with adrenaline that results in rapid breathing, increased heart rate, muscle tension, and more. In 1 hour, a court of 4 players can generate a minimum of 900 of those pops per hour. Multiply that by 4 courts, 16 players, and the number skyrockets to 3,600 pops per hour. With 6 courts in play, that's 5,400 pops per hour. Our neurological alarm system is an involuntary physiological response that cannot be ignored. Over time, exposure to noise is exponential. It takes less and less time to be cognizant of the noise and its effect. The level of play visibly decreases as the number of pickleball players increases. You can't speak to your partners or your opponents or even warn somebody if a ball crosses a court. In 5 years, you have systematically made it more difficult for us to reserve courts while also reducing the number of courts that we have access to. And to my knowledge, you are not even considering outdoor courts for tennis while planning a 10-court pickleball building. We have also been told that it's possible pickleball will still be inside the racket center after this building is created. In conjunction with nearly 100 other tennis players who signed a petition last year, I'm asking you to please move pickleball out of the racket center to the center where we have 3 courts already lined for play. And right now, even with block time, there's more than 122 hours open each week, and give us back our courts. I also recommend and ask that you pay for a professional sound study with a qualified expert to discover how much you are putting our health at risk. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, yes, I'm flying out to see my answer usually. I like to write it down so I don't wander. But, first of all, as I look at the year in review, I do want to thank this board for all your work. And I know and acknowledge that it hasn't been an easy year. As we got into this year, though, I was optimistic that things were going to change. We were going to get away from the wound, so to speak, of the stable. And we were going to start moving on. We had 2 new board members that, according to their platforms and how they were going to run, or how they were going to be members of the board, I was optimistic that there was truly going to be change taking place. And there has been. But as I've seen the year go on, I noticed some things that are quite alarming. First of all, it does appear that we're trying, as much as we say we're trying to communicate and so forth, we're taking that back seat. By that I mean less and less ability for us to communicate, hear, limits that are put on it, 3-minute limits, all of a sudden we go this year. Things that take place that the more we press, the communication comes out. I use today as an example. Greg did a fine job of explaining the process of the budget, and that there were 3 bodies involved on it, and why it took so long. It could have been very easy to be put out in the communication to us when you said the budget meeting is being moved. That's communication. It eliminates questions being asked. The second piece is when people come up, such as this young lady that was talking about tennis tennis. When they come up, they make recommendations. They make these recommendations. I can tell you from my own personal side, I got 5 of them sitting right here that I've made this year. There's no acknowledgement. There's no, you know what we talked about? We had some actual discussions in our private secret sessions. And here's why we can't implement it. Or here's some bits and pieces that could be implemented. That's all we're asking. We want us to be involved. Okay, acknowledge our involvement and help us. So as we move into this next year, I'd like to see in January, this board come back and tell us how. How we're going to be invited more and feel more a part of making suggestions and offering recommendations. Other than the usual ones, get out of committee. That's, Scott,
He said you guys went through it, it was good.
so.
It should have been. I don't know. Make some max peak. It's bad.
I don't know what we're talking about here.
You got a written statement, someone,
Forget it all.
What microphone is he on?
You know, because these 3-minute timeframes ought to be by the people who are here. That's why we set them up, for them. I mean, you could literally line up 200 people times 3 minutes and have 600 minutes. And we're not gonna get into that, but have the person come, if that's something to share. Encourage them to come. We want you. Also, I do want to make one other announcement, because we did, in fact, Shannon, we'll do 2 of them here on questions, but we did go back and answer all the questions that we had from the board meeting in October. Those are posted. The intention was that we were going to bring copies of those today. If you want to get them out, hard copies, we forgot. So they are posted on the website, so you can actually go out and see all the questions that were answered by both S&T board members and others that were raised this last board. And I think we got them all. We will expect you guys out in the audience, if we miss something, to let us know.
I wasn't able to be here last month in October when you had your meeting, and I know that someone came to speak about tennis as well, and they ran out of time. The response that was put on the website was totally inaccurate and totally did not address her concerns. She did not get through her entire presentation, and the problem was that we are limited in the number of courts, this goes for pickleball too, by the way. We're limited in the number of courts that we can reserve. And on the paperwork, we were told that we could only have a certain number of courts. And I went to the director and said, I bring 8 courts of people in here to play every week. That brings revenue to Fairfield Glade, and you're cutting me in half. And then telling me that if I have 4 courts reserved for the week, and I have company, I can't come in and reserve a court to bring a guest in to play? It's ridiculous. And when I confronted them, it was, well, you can have your courts, just have somebody else put their name on the reservation. Are you kidding me? That's absolutely ridiculous. There are few people here that take the time to manage a group of players that varies from week to week, month to month, and year to year. We don't have a system like pickleball does. We don't have playtime scheduler that coordinates our people. We do it all by word of mouth. Can you play? Can you play? You can't play, then I get to sub. It's a lot of work. I probably spend 7 or 8 hours a week. If one person drops, I'm on the phone for 2 hours trying to fill that slot so that you get paid so we can keep our amenities. And you guys did not address that at all. And I told the director, I'm still gonna do all 8 of my points. I'm not gonna lie about that. I put someone else's name on the reservation, but it's me doing it. And I don't like being put in that position as a member. I'm an adult, and if I wanna play in a facility that I pay for, I should be able to do it.
Anyone else? Okay, before we get to the adjournment, Shannon, you want to kind of go through the questions you got here? Make sure that, and we were very appreciated last month when we did this, that if you felt like the question was answered, and Shannon was saying, I just don't have it, if you felt like the question was answered, say that. We'll still post some things, but we won't reiterate everything, that's already been answered. So please, if you feel like the question's been answered, when Shannon says it, just tell us, okay?
Yeah, there might have been last time, but, you let me know. Everybody hear me? Okay, so these are questions and follow-up. So Tom, we need to follow up with you about the budget for the website. There was a question about, questions or, Q&As for the budget. Did we say we were gonna post that information? I wasn't clear.
Well, we're gonna find out why they
Okay.
aren't posted, they should have been posted.
Okay, so that's a follow-up. Marilyn, you had a question about, classes being canceled at the library rooms cancellation, so, Bill's gonna follow up with Mary Jo about that. Catherine, you have a question, Kevin Henderson, you have questions about, the pickleball courts and then ways of the tennis courts, and your comment a few minutes ago about court reservations. And then, Tom, you had a question about just questions and recommendations to the board, and then just telling you guys how things are going to change in January.
And also, I had requested that they're looking to do a sound study.
Yeah, that's in there too. That's all I have. Is there anything I missed?
Anyone else, they missed the question?
Okay, happy holidays.
Well, that's already on our radar screen. I mean, we're working on that actively right now. But we still need more information from the county. And the start of that will be this education process here for the membership to understand what the whole issue is around. Okay? Anything else? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.